All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep, really deep, into some seriously mind-bending ideas about the afterlife, other realms, and the very fabric of reality.
Yeah, we're going to be questioning, everything we think we know about life, death, and the universe. Should be fun.
Totally. So to guide us on this incredible journey, we're pulling from two really fascinating sources today.
We've got Michael Newton's research, especially from Destiny of Souls, where he delves into soul regression, and then
we're going to be jumping into the deep end with Wes Pandre's The Third Level of Learning, which gets into some pretty wild out there stuff like esoteric cosmology
and
alien intervention.
Alien influence, yeah.
Okay, so we've got soul journeys and cosmic conspiracies all in one.
All on the menu today, yeah.
Where do we even begin with all of this?
Yeah. Well, I think a good place to start might be with death. What happens after we die? Newton's research, based on those hypnotic regressions, gives us these really vivid descriptions of what the soul experiences when it leaves the physical body.
I've always been fascinated by those accounts. People describing leaving their bodies like a point of light, being pulled toward like a tunnel of light. It's really interesting how similar these experiences are across cultures and stuff.
Right. And Newton adds this whole other layer to it. He found that under hypnosis, people often describe this feeling of being ejected out the top of their heads like a pinpoint of light.
Whoa, like shooting out into the cosmos.
Yeah, imagine that. You as pure energy.
Makes you wonder if those near-death experiences people talk about, seeing the light, feeling this overwhelming peace, maybe that's a glimpse of that initial soul departure.
It's a really compelling possibility. But here's the thing. Newton's research also suggests that we don't just float around aimlessly after we die. There's structure and orientation process guided by spirit guides.
Okay, so it's not some hazy cloud with everyone strumming harps.
Not quite, no.
There's an actual system.
A system, yeah. And it's interesting because both Newton and Penray, in their own ways, point to the existence of, a higher intelligence.
Okay, so a guiding force that shapes our reality.
Exactly.
So what happens during this orientation? Are we judged for our actions? Is it like a therapy session?
From what Newton's subjects described, it's more like a compassionate review of our lives. We get to see the impact of our choices, the ripple effects, both positive and negative. But it's not about punishment. It's about understanding, learning from our experiences.
That makes sense. Kind of ties into that whole karma thing, right?
Right, exactly. And this is where Penray's perspective adds this whole other layer of complexity, because he suggests that maybe the earthly challenges, the whole system of karma, could actually be part of some larger manipulation.
Wait, hold on. We're going full cosmic conspiracy theory now. Who are these beings and what do they want?
Penray calls them the Sirian Alliance, and he suggests they're operating on a higher dimensional level, possibly even influencing our DNA and, shaping our reality. It's almost as if we might be stuck in a karmic loop that benefits them somehow.
Okay, so according to Penray, it's not just our own personal karma, but we're also dealing with some kind of cosmic manipulation.
Potentially, yeah.
That makes you wonder how much free will we actually have, if that's true.
Yeah, it's a big question, one that both Newton and Penray grapple with in their work. But before we jump down that rabbit hole, let's go back to Newton's research about the afterlife for a minute. He discovered this really interesting thing about how souls choose their next lives.
Okay, tell me more about that. I've always wondered about reincarnation, how we end up back here on Earth. Is it random? Do we get any say in the matter?
Well, according to Newton's subjects, there's this place in the spirit world called the place of life selection. And souls actually get to experience, snippets of potential futures before they decide which life to choose.
So it's like a cosmic choose-your-own-adventure. We get to preview different lives. That's amazing.
It is. But here's the thing. They don't get the full picture. There's still an element of the unknown, to make sure there are still lessons to be learned. It's not about knowing everything in advance. It's about choosing the path that offers the most growth.
That's pretty wild. Even in the afterlife, there's still a sense of mystery.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And this whole idea of choice really ties into something fascinating that Penray proposes about the nature of reality itself. What if this whole universe, as we perceive it, is actually a simulated reality?
Wait, are you saying we're living in the Matrix?
It's a mind-blowing possibility, right?
Who are the architects of this grand illusion?
Yeah, and what's their motivation?
What's the point of it all?
Those are the big questions, and they're questions that we're going to keep exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
Well, my mind is officially blown. I need a minute to process all of this. We've gone from soul departures to cosmic conspiracies to the Matrix in the span of like, what, 20 minutes?
We've only just scratched the surface.
I can't wait to dive back in.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the mysteries of the soul and the nature of reality. We've covered some pretty intense territory already.
My head's still spinning from that last segment, honestly. We were just talking about that place of life selection where souls choose their next lives. Makes you wonder, about the people we meet in those lives. Is there some sort of cosmic matchmaking going on behind the scenes?
That's a great question, and it actually leads us perfectly into one of the most fascinating parts of Newton's research. The idea of soul groups and soulmates.
Okay, I've heard the term soulmates, but what are soul groups exactly?
Well, imagine, clusters of souls that learn and evolve together across multiple lifetimes. Like a group of souls connected for ages, reincarnating together, playing different roles, helping each other grow.
So it's not just about finding your one true soulmate, but more about recognizing that all souls are connected. Like we're all in this together.
Precisely. It's a much broader view of relationships. And within these soul groups, we have these super strong connections, the ones we might call soulmates.
So soulmates don't have to be romantic partners.
Not at all. They can be family members, close friends, mentors, even rivals, It's really about those souls who have a deep impact on our journey, who challenge us, teach us, and help us evolve.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about, butterflies and fireworks.
Yeah.
It's about these deeper connections that shape who we become.
Exactly. And, Newton shares some really incredible stories from his research about souls actually recognizing each other across different lifetimes. People under hypnosis describe feeling this instant familiarity, like a deep connection with someone they've just met, as if they've known each other forever.
Wow, that's kind of freaky, but also really beautiful. Makes you think about the people in your own life, the ones you just click with. Maybe there's a deeper reason for that, a connection that goes beyond this one lifetime.
It's a powerful thought. And it actually brings us back to the question of choice that we were talking about earlier. If we have these soul groups and predetermined connections, how much control do we really have over our lives?
Yeah, that's the part that kind of trips me up. It's like, if our souls have these big plans mapped out, are we just playing out a script that's already written?
Right. It's a really valid question, and it's a tough one to answer definitively. But both Newton and Poincaré seem to agree that while there may be a framework, a kind of cosmic blueprint, we still have the power to make choices within that framework.
So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Yeah.
The main plot points might be fixed, but we decide how to get through them, how we react to the challenges, and ultimately, how we grow.
That's a great way to put it. And through those choices, those moments where we exercise free will, those are the times we learn the most important lessons. Speaking of lessons, remember that whole thing about manipulation by those advanced beings?
Oh yeah, the Sirian Alliance. That's a rabbit hole I'm kind of scared to go down, but I also can't resist.
Well, let's take a few more steps down that path then, shall we? Poincaré suggests that this Sirian alliance has actually manipulated human DNA. They created a reality that serves their own agenda.
Okay, so they're the puppet masters and we're the puppets. What's their motive, though? What do they get out of controlling us?
That's where things get even more interesting. Poincaré thinks they've created a specific type of reality, what he calls the 4% universe, and they use it to harvest human energy.
Hold on, human energy? What does that even mean? Are they like energy vampires sucking out our life force or something?
Not quite that literal, but Poincaré believes that our emotions, especially strong ones like fear, anger, suffering, they generate a particular kind of energy, and these beings feed off of it.
So you mean all the negativity in the world, the pain and suffering, it's all somehow benefiting these cosmic overlords?
That's what Poincaré is suggesting, and he even compares it to the Gnostic idea of archons, these parasitic entities that trap souls in a false reality to feed off their energy.
So basically, we're like batteries powering their cosmic machine. It's a pretty grim outlook. Is there any hope of breaking free from this?
Well, that's where things get a little bit brighter. Poincaré believes that the key to breaking free is understanding the nature of the trap. It's about raising our consciousness and reclaiming our true power.
Okay, but how do we do that? How do we escape a system that's so deeply ingrained in our reality? I mean, it could even be woven into our very DNA, right?
Right. Poincaré suggests that awareness is the first step. Recognizing the limitations of this 4% universe, understanding how our perception is manipulated, and seeing the systems that keep us trapped.
So like waking up from the matrix, seeing the code for what it is, But what about the 96% of reality that's beyond that 4%? Can we access that somehow?
Chen Brin calls that realm the KHAA. It's supposed to be this realm of pure consciousness, pure potential. And he thinks the Syrian alliance has cut off our access to it by limiting our DNA and trapping us in this 4% illusion.
So if we're trapped, how do we break free? Is there like a secret password or something?
This is where Penray and Newton actually meet on common ground. They both say that raising our consciousness is the key. For Penray, it's about recognizing the trap, breaking free from the limitations and reclaiming our true, multidimensional selves.
And for Newton, it's about the soul's journey of growth, learning from each lifetime and eventually merging back with the source.
Right. It's not about physically escaping, it's about inner transformation.
So not running away from this reality, but like transcending it, evolving beyond the limitation.
Exactly. And in the last part of our deep dive, we're going to get into some practical ways to actually break free from this matrix, reclaim our power, and step into our full potential. Stick with us.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? Talking about the spirit world, cosmic manipulation, and even the idea that we might be living in, like, a simulated reality.
Yeah, some pretty mind-blowing stuff. But now we're at the most important question. How do we take all this knowledge and actually apply it to our lives? How do we, break free from those limitations we were talking about?
Right. It's cool to talk about soul groups and escaping the matrix, but, what can we actually do to take back our power and, step into that full potential?
Well, both Penray and Newton have some interesting ideas about that. Penray talks about something called the smart grid. He describes it as this technologically advanced system of control that manipulates our perception, limits our consciousness.
Okay, so like a big Wi-Fi signal for mind control. Are we all plugged into some kind of cosmic internet that's feeding us this fake reality?
It's a little more complex than that. Penray suggests that it works through technology, things that emit electromagnetic frequencies, cell phones, computers, even the internet itself.
So all the tech we use every day is actually contributing to our, enslavement. That's a pretty scary thought.
It's definitely something to think about. He believes the smart grid is keeping us locked in a specific frequency range, that 4% universe, which in turn makes us more vulnerable to manipulation.
So the more plugged in we are, the less we see.
That's one way to look at it. But it's not about, demonizing technology. It's about being aware of how it can affect us.
So what can we do? Do we all need to go off the grid, ditch our phones, live in a tech-free commune?
That's probably a little extreme. But Penray does recommend minimizing our exposure to technology when we can, being more conscious of how we use it. And, spending time in nature can really help. It helps us ground ourselves, expand our awareness.
Yeah, being in nature always helps me clear my head. But what about the deeper stuff? The manipulation of our DNA, the suppression of our true potential. How do we deal with that?
Penray emphasizes the importance of knowledge. He believes that understanding how the manipulation works, seeing the trap for what it is the first step to breaking free.
So knowledge is power, like in The Matrix, when Neo takes that red pill.
Exactly. It's about questioning everything, challenging the stories we've been told, and looking for truth from multiple perspectives.
That's in line with what Newton found too. Remember how he talked about the soul's drive for growth and self-discovery? It's like we're programmed to break free from limitations.
Exactly. His research shows that even though we might choose difficult lives to learn specific lessons, our souls are ultimately seeking expansion, that reunion with the source.
So it's not about running away from this reality. It's about transcending the limitations within it.
Exactly. And that's where our choices come in. Penray believes we can break free from this control, access that KHAA, that realm of infinite potential, by reclaiming our power, our connection to, the divine feminine and our multidimensional nature.
And Newton really stresses learning from each lifetime, balancing karma, cultivating love and compassion, to speed up our soul's evolution, to ultimately merge with the source.
And it's amazing how those two perspectives, even though they seem so different, really come down to the same thing, the power of consciousness.
So whether we're breaking free from a simulated reality or evolving through lifetimes, it all boils down to awareness, to making conscious choices.
Absolutely. It's not about waiting for some external savior or a big technological breakthrough. It's about taking responsibility for our own evolution, our own liberation.
That's really powerful. It means we have a lot more power than we think. We can choose to wake up, see through those illusions, and create a whole new reality for ourselves.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one last thought. If reality is truly shaped by our perception, then just imagine what would happen if we all shifted our perception. What if we chose to see ourselves as like powerful, multidimensional beings, connected to a source of infinite love and wisdom?
Whoa, that's a really powerful image. It's a challenge, but after this conversation, I'm feeling a lot more hopeful about the possibilities. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, keep those minds open and keep those perceptions shifting.